Well, thank you guys all for joining this IGEL community meetup. Like I said, we're going to be doing these things quite often, and we want to do a road show, but this is as good as that, minus all the smiley faces. It is definitely a different dynamic. Within the meetup we had in Amsterdam, it was very much a give and take. Very much a give and take, and we do want that here. There is a questions piece, a little question thing down on your toolbar or somewhere located on your screen. If you have any questions along the way, please use that. When the presenters are done, we'll pepper these guys with your questions, and if you ask so many that we don't get time for it, then they have volunteered to spend their nights and weekends answering your questions and getting you a nice a nice report, a nice document back with all the questions that we'll post within the community, sent out to you guys via an email. So that being said, my name's Doug Brown. My job is the VP of Community, which is the greatest job on earth. I get to work with all you guys and share a bunch of great information with you guys. So the agenda today is pretty simple. I'm going to talk just for a couple seconds here, or minutes maybe. Then we're going to have Christian Werner, who's our the manager of product manager, the manager of product management. And he's going to talk a bit about product management and a bunch of other great stuff. So I don't even know what's on his slide. So I'm really looking forward to it. And Christian is a great guy to sort of beat up on, not physically, but this is where if you have any likes, dislikes, anything you have that you want to share with us, this is the guy to share it to, because he controls a lot of what you find in the products. So, if there's something you really love, tell them. If there's something you really dislike, tell them. If you have any questions whatsoever, please post them in the questions piece. If they don't make sense to ask him now, he'll take that. We want the feedback, because from you, we're better, right? This is your, we work for the company, but the company's for you, right? And then we're going to get into an IGEL deep dive with the community's own Sebastian. So I'm really excited about that. So that being said, real quick, what is this IGEL community all about? It's about you guys, right? The goal is to be able to share what we're doing in IGEL with you guys. So I made a mission statement when we first started this, and it's quite simple: to create an exceptional member experience that rises above what our customers and partners expect and leaves them inspired, highly educated, and with this sense of being part of the IGEL family. And you definitely are part of the family. So one of the things I love about the IGEL community is the second most popular channel within the Slack channel is Chit Chat, where we just talk about absolutely nothing in particular. And that makes me really happy. So we are going to have upcoming events. So this is the first online meetup. We're going to have some in the future. June 18th is scheduled. Although I don't have a link yet, you will have a link when we send out the recorded version of this. So stay tuned for that. I didn't want to take you away from this fine presentation that I'm doing. And so we'll get that for you probably tomorrow. So the June 18th one, we're going to have a meetup. Meetup's going to be a little bit different than this. This is a 2-hour session. The meetup will be a 1-hour session. And we have Ed Webster, who's a technical trainer and really responsible for the IGEL learning LMS, Learning Management System. He's going to talk for about 10 minutes about the LMS itself, certification program, things like that, and take your questions. Then we're really excited to have Frank Bierman with us. Frank is one of the first employees at IGEL, and developer. Now he's the VP of R&D, and this guy knows everything and then some about IGEL. So he really wants to hear your feedback. On this session, it's going to be more interactive, more maybe open camera, open video, depending on, or audio, depending on how many people have joined. But it's going to be very informal, and it's really, we want to hear what you have to say. It's a Q&A with these two wonderful guys. On July 16th, we have an XL again, and that's this 2-hour event. The opener is going to be is to be determined, although I hope it's going to be Jed's sort of sharing the vision of what IGEL is, where we're going with IGEL from his level. When I was at CTP, I loved when Mark T would come and talk, so I really hope Jed can join us. So and then we're going to have IGEL development best practices with Christian from who's a solution architect from Advanced Services. And I definitely want to give a big shout out to IGEL's Advanced Services team, because they're helping out a lot within the community, and you're going to see even more and more from these guys, and they're going to be really helpful within the upcoming event. So big shout out to those guys. They're really amazing folks. Some resources real quick. IGEL community, if you're not a member, please join. If you haven't checked out the website recently, we've added some stuff. We added a blog. IGELcommunity.com, definitely check that. Keep an eye on that. The blog is great. If you use RSS, definitely subscribe. Our Twitter is IGEL Community on Twitter. Please follow that. And then on IGELcommunity.com is the events page where you're going to find new events. Last but not least, before I hand it over to Christian, you know, I want your feedback. We work for you. I work for you guys. The whole community is about you, our customers and our partners. So please, if there's anything you want at all, let me know. If there's anything you don't like about the community or you want in the community, please let me know. Right? We did a Q&A happy hour a couple weeks ago, and these guys peppered me with a bunch of things they wanted, and we delivered that. So I have somewhat carte blanche to get you what you want. So please let me know if there's anything I can do to help you. So brown@igel.com, and I'm @Doug on Slack. So on that note, I need to stop sharing my screen. And I'm really, really happy to have Christian Werner with us. He's an absolutely great guy, fun to hang out with. If we were in Amsterdam, we could have some drinks together. But today we're going to learn all about product management and what they're doing. So please, again, use the questions piece of Zoom here. I wanted to call it GoToWebinar. And with no further ado, I'm going to put myself on mute and turn off my camera and put all attention to Christian Werner. So Christian, the floor is yours.
Thanks a lot. So hi all, pleased to be here. Thanks for the introduction, Doug. So I hope you can see my screen. So I guess yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. So today we are gonna talk about our roadmap, so about our upcoming hardware, the new web app for the UMS, IGEL enhancements and improvements, and also about the OSC for Windows, our recently released product. So for an easy conversion of any Windows-based endpoint. So let's start. The OSC for Windows. So it was released last week. The basic use case for this new product is an easy deployment of IGEL OS 11 for existing Windows-based environments and devices. So with this new tool, it is sufficient to enroll this small tool, so it's around 30 megabyte. We are usual deployment mechanism in Windows, so you know, group policies or management tools like so I guess group policies is quite nice. Also SSEM is possible, so we are offering also an MSI package for that. And with this tool, with this small tool, you get the desired devices into the UMS. And once the devices are imported, the OS 11 deployment can be triggered centrally from the UMS with different deployment methods. So for widespread environments, also a body update server can be configured. So let me see if I have also the right screen here. So of course you need the correct OSC version for the IGEL OS. This OSC version will then be deployed to the desired Windows-based devices. So this is how it works. And then also the so-called and hopefully well-known body update server can be configured. So one client acts as source and deploys the OS 11 image to the other devices in the office. So an easy way to reduce the overall network load. There we are currently converting all third-party Windows-based devices. A solution for the IGEL Windows-based devices will be offered in the course of next week. Then the conversion can be done in a more direct way, so just an update to the conversion firmware, which is an usual firmware update then, and trigger the OS 11 deployment then also and known via the UMS. Of course, this tool is completely free of charge, so just feel free to use it and use then the OS 11. So I would say that the better piece of software. So as you may know, we are offering also the USB stick deployment, also so-called the sneaker deployment, as you have to run this locally on every device, and the OS deployment appliance for an installation via a network. So over Pixie, you see we are offering a lot of possibilities to use a nice and easy operating system. To make it complete, one piece is missing, and this is SCCM. Also, this is currently under evaluation, and we will offer also an official support for an IGEL OS deployment via SCCM in the very next time. Okay, so that are the required releases. So the minimum version, of course, all later versions will have this possibility and these features as well. Okay, then let's move to IGEL OS. Next things to come with the 11.04.100. Hope you have seen already our latest update, the 11.03.500, which offers a few nice simplifications like the IGEL starter license. So this is valid for 30 days and for every new installation. So you could use the system without any bigger restriction, only the codec pack is not integrated there. And of course, the most desired feature or license change is the inclusion of the custom partition mechanism in the basic workspace edition license. So for users who are just using custom partition, it wasn't worth to buy the whole EMP package for that. So I guess this is a nice simplification for all of our customers. Oh, sorry. So then let's move to the 11.04. Let's take a look in the near future. So in detail, the new features of the upcoming release. So first of all, we will update the base system to Ubuntu 18.04 and the current kernel. This is at the moment 5.4. And of course, we are using the LTS, so the long-term supported versions for that. This offers support for current chipsets, Wi-Fi chips, graphic cards, and stuff like that. Also sound chips and a bunch of other devices, so necessary just to be up to date and offer support for current hardware models. So this will be a huge step then in this direction. Furthermore, we will return the fast user switching feature with Imprivator. So we are working closely with Imprivator for that. This was not working with the newer appliance. So since the appliance 7.0 and later, we are also working with them on a more open way to use Imprivator. So currently, this is a pure appliance mode, so a really restricted mode. So no possibility to set something user-specific directly by the user. So this will be more open and more flexible to use Imprivator with the corresponding session. So it depends also on Imprivator if we are able to offer this feature already in the 11.04, but we are working together on it, and hopefully we could offer this directly in this version. Sorry. Also, a very often requested topic is the integration of an alternative browser. So currently there's just Firefox, which is not really the preferred choice of every customer. So a lot of requests for offering an integrated Chromium, which was only offered as custom partition so far. So the first integration will be experimental in the 11.04, just experimental as we are not sure if every use case can be covered directly with the initial integration. This means we are open for feedback here and will improve the integration in an ongoing way to claim the official support at a later point and with a later release. Also, captive portal support is a nice topic, so especially important for mobile workers who want to connect via hotel or public Wi-Fi's. There you have often the browser-based authentication in addition to establish an internet connection, and this was not possible so far. So this will come also with the 11.04 then. We will add also a new browser-based appliance mode, so basically a substitute for the often missed Xen desktop appliance mode. This will work in a quite similar way like it was in earlier days, so a restricted but direct way to your Citrix virtual desktops. And also a general and easy way to reduce the image size, so a possibility to select only necessary partitions during the firmware update, which will be saved also for the next performed firmware update. So important for devices is just 2 GB of flash. There are a few more interesting topics which will be covered with the release of the 11.04.100. Oh, sorry. Okay, sorry for that. So as example, the integration of the monitoring solution controller, another printing agent, which makes printing in VDI session easier. So we are already working with SynPrint and also with Printer Logic. So LRS is the third partner in these regards. And of course, ongoing efforts and implementations for our WVD integrations. There we are very close with Microsoft and new features will be constantly added. Also a highly demanded topic is the official support for VirtualBox and VMware workstations. So also a general and easy way to reduce the image size. So just an official way to use virtual machines for IGEL. Okay, so I guess this were then the main topics for the 1104. Let's move to a later point this year. So roughly in September, October, we will offer the 1105 release. So there the main features are an integrated pre-boot authentication. So to make sure no user data is accessible without the corresponding passphrase, so not even the wallpaper, which could be also an indicator for, for example, a police station. So there would be critical when someone would be aware of a lost UD pocket. So a further security feature within the IGEL. An added possibility to modify the reset to factory defaults means this would be configurable via the UMS to keep diverse settings. So as an example, the UMS connection and the network configuration can be stored. So it would not be necessary to search and add the device then again, even after performed reset to factory default command. Background firmware update mechanism could be also quite interesting for a lot of customers, so especially with limited bandwidth. So a very useful feature for users in mobile or home office with a low internet connection. The firmware update will be loaded in a background while the user is working, and then the update itself could be executed then in a direct way, so without a further delay or without a further download. A few more interesting features are currently under investigation, therefore I do not want to talk about them yet, so stay tuned. General topics. Two, I would say, very important topics in IGEL are unified communication and support of newer corresponding tools. Focus there is besides of the team support in Citrix, where we are offering a technical preview version for IGEL 11 with the early access release 2006 in the next weeks. So then audio and video offloading can be tested. We are working also, in addition with Cisco, on the integration and support of Teams VDI, and also for the WebEx Meetings VDI, so the offloading plugins. And we plan to offer also technical preview versions for that in the very next time. So when you are interested, just let your sales rep know, and we could offer you the technical preview version then. A big topic during our community event in Amsterdam was the user interface, so that it should be more user-friendly and more fancy in general. To fulfill these needs, we will rework our setup assistant, so make it easier to use and direct the user in a better way to the really required settings. Also, our system tray and especially the display settings in the Wi-Fi setup will be completely reworked. Furthermore, we are going to add more user-specific settings there, so like the mouse settings and keyboard layout, also the graphical user interface languages, etc. So overall, we are trying to simplify the usage here a lot. So thanks for the feedback in Amsterdam. Sorry, a lot of talking here. Okay, so the next big topic, of course, our management platform, the UMS web app, the upcoming web app, and the ICG. So with the release of the UMS 605-100 in July, we are introducing the new web app. So you will see later a bit more about a test tool will come as well for optimizing your HA setup, so your high availability setup, and some improvements for the ICG. We will add the option to install the ICG also on port 443, not only on 8443 like it is at the moment, and there is no choice to change this at the moment. It will be possible to limit the connection devices per each ICG instance, just to make sure the performance is on a good level and not too much connections are present on one ICG instance at one time. And a later point this year, we will offer the UMS 606 with the following main features to simplify some important points. One of that is the connection to the UMS database. There we will offer a way to access the database directly with a suitable Active Directory account. Also, ICG needs an improvement in regards of the ICG onboarding. There, the easiest way would be to use also the existing Active Directory, so just connect to the ID. And when everything is set up accordingly, the user is onboarded via ICG in a direct way. Like we heard before in the IGEL roadmap, we will offer flexible options for adjust the reset to factory default settings. Of course, there's a combined settings via the UMS and the IGEL, and a more flexible way to exchange the root certificates for ICG, and also a way to offer firmware update in a separate way on every HA server. So that should simplify the usage of both features a lot. Now to the UMS web app topic. So like you may know, the first use case we want to cover is the help desk scenario. This includes searching devices in a proper and convenient way, shadowing the device for offer support directly on the affected device. Also basic power commands like reboot, wake up, shutdown, and suspend of the device is possible to set via the app. Managing and sort the device tree, moving the devices and directories via drag and drop, and an overview about the network status, so about the UMS servers and load balancers and the ICG connection. So I would say the basic information you mandatory need. In the course of the web-based app, the performance is also increased, so it's possible to run easily 500,000 devices, direct navigation in the directory tree without a delay, and advanced search where all device-specific specs can be used as search criteria. Furthermore, changes in the device information are immediately used, so directly present. So to get an impression about our optical progress, especially in regards of the design, please see the following slides. So this one was one of the community event in December. So this is the device list. Now it looks like that. So I would say there is a good increase in optical regards. Also, the usability is way more better and easier to use, and so there's a huge difference in my opinion. So also the network, so the dashboard for the network status this was also the December status. Currently it looks like that. And also the devices, also the tree structure. This was also from December, and this is how it looks today. So the timeline. So as you see, the first interested customers are already testing the current implementation. So we are collecting feedback for the first official release, which will come in the course of 605, sorry. This is planned for July. And important to know is that the web app and console will share the same database and user. So it's not difficult to try this. Okay, so then to the last point. This is hardware. So I guess you have heard already about our upcoming UD3. So our upcoming top seller maybe comes with a few remarkable updates. So first of all, the user chipset, the use chipset. So this is a current Ryzen platform where we managed in cooperation with AMD to reduce the power usage. So this is very unique. The CPU comes with a base core of 2.4 gigahertz on 4 threads. In boost mode, this goes up to 2.7 gigahertz with a very low power consumption. So it's very unique. It offers dual screen with up to 4K with 60 hertz, and also inbuilt Wi-Fi Bluetooth is optional available. So no need for an extra dongle or the former connectivity bar. Of course, all our sync lines are fanless, so also passive cooled. So no movable parts within the device, which is good for the lifetime, of course. And The new design should be well known in the meantime, so a lean and smart, smaller design to reduce the overall volume. Also new, the base plate can now be added with just one hand screw, so no tools are required anymore for setting up the device. This client and chipset is optimized to work with cloud solutions, and especially the current Teradigi Ultra client, where the new AVX2 codec is used, so this enables a real powerful acceleration. So it makes fun to use. So also high graphic performance is not a problem with this device then. Sorry. With this device, we are offering also the complete chain of trust. So means the hardware verifies the used UEFI. This checks the bootloader and the kernel. Then only signed system partitions will be loaded. So overall, a complete safe way where it is not possible to manipulate any of the core components. Of course, I guess it's quite usual as a smart card reader as an optional feature. And like I said, OS level security up to the cloud. That's a complete secure way from booting the device to connecting to the cloud. Of course, also connectivity is good and an ongoing topic. Therefore, the UD3 comes as usual with a serial port on board. So on the back side, this is the front side. There we have super speed USB, so 3.2. Also USB-C and a combined audio jack, so for the headset. So there we have combined the line in and line out, just with one 3.5 plugin. And the rear, there you have the classic. So also the serial port, so which is a classic and then still used in, I would say, retail stores a lot. So there we will have still the serial port on board. Okay, so of course Visa mounting is also possible. Looks like that. And the GA release of this device is now scheduled for end of May. And maybe you were already part with the early access program. And like I said, the general availability is end of May. Okay, so this was my part so far. Hope you enjoyed, and when there are any questions, please feel free.
We do have a bunch of questions, Christian. You ready?
Just let me drink, and then yes.
Okie dokie. And guys out there listening, if you have any questions, please please ask them. Don't hold your comments to yourself. So like I said, this is sort of the right guy to ask the question. So will the UMS web app have dark mode?
Not yet, so not in the initial phase. But of course, this is quite usual and quite desired, so this will come in a later stage.
Okay, cool. Also, guys out there listening, in his presentation, he talked about the updates to the UI updates from the feedback from Amsterdam. Please let us know. You can do this one in the chat if you want. Maybe not in the questions, but let us know if you like if you tried the new version, you know, the new wizards, and what you think. If you like it, let us know. If you don't like it and you have suggestions, definitely leave something in the chat so we can sort of get the feedback on that. I think it's a really great improvement. So, but you know, again, we want to know what you think.
Yeah, but this is not the real improvement. So we will work it in a general way. Also, the graphical interface will be different, and it will be a more direct way for the really necessary features and settings.
Oh, so it's even getting better than it was in the last version then?
Yes, it will, and it should.
Excellent, excellent.
Also, the Wi-Fi manager via the tray icon, so it's not very handy. So this was also feedback from Amsterdam, and this will be also improved.
Perfect, perfect. Finally, the browser-based appliance mode will be back? Question?
Yes. Oh, sorry. This was a question. Yes,
Yeah.
this will be back. So it will be quite similar to the well-known Send desktop appliance mode. So a lot of customers were complaining about this, and so it will be quite similar like it was before. Also with the 11.04 then.
Okay, this one is more of a statement, and we'll read it to you, and maybe you have some comments on it. Just to place my wishes one more time, ICG and UMS as a virtual appliance. We had one way back when. Why did it go away? There's a reason for that, and I actually sort of agree with it.
So it was not very handy. So a lot of customers didn't want to use it. So I guess you are one of the only ones. So of course, so this would be possible, and we could think about that, bringing that back. So when we have a few customer demands, so of course we could think about.
I thought I heard something where it was tough to guarantee security on it and a few other things. Like we didn't want to be responsible for security. We give the software and then the customers can deal with it appropriately. Is that hold any water, or did I hear that not correctly?
So this is also a reason, but basically the software comes from our side, and so there is no much way to manipulate this. So this is one small reason for that, but not the main reason.
Okay. ICG and UMS as a service, managed and hosted by IGEL. When I joined IGEL, this is something I thought made a lot of sense, but then I also think that's what our partners are for, right?
Yes.
Do you have a comment on that?
Yes, of course. So currently in the UMS is not multi-tenant able. So this would be the first step in direction to use UMS as a service. So of course we are getting these requests and demands for that, and this is also on our, I would say, long-term roadmap. So this will come in a later stage. So I don't think this year, but this is a topic for next year.
Yeah. That's what when people ask me for a managed service, I said we need to make it HTML5, which you guys are doing, in multi-tenant. And so once we
Exactly,
get that,
yeah.
we have a service. Yeah, it makes
Exactly,
sense.
so it makes sense. I guess the environments are going more and more into the cloud, so it does make sense to offer this as a service.
Cool. I was waiting for this one, of course. IGEL OS support for ARM. You knew that was coming, right?
Yes, so I'm not surprised. Yes, so we are trying a little bit with the current Raspberry 4, so with 4 gigabytes of RAM, and so it's not a final product, but we are working on that, and it's quite probable that we will offer something within this year. So of course, ARM is a little bit tricky, so it will be quite restricted. So not every VDI vendor has a client for the ARM-based architecture, but at least Citrix and VMware offer something, and of course something like browser can be also integrated. So we are trying to offer something within this year. So it's a topic. It's a current topic for us.
Cool. What they want is casting and workplace hub, right? That's the hub and the casting support. That's what I'm hearing from the community constantly.
Yes. So we are also close with Citrix, and this is also one of the topics with Citrix.
Perfect. It'll make Chris Fleck very happy, man, and me too. Teams working with Citrix App Store with HDX ETA.
So currently they released the first workspace app with the experimental support for Teams, so just for audio. So it's not a real team support so far. Like I mentioned in the presentation, we received the early access preview version for the workspace app 2006, and their audio and video optimization is integrated. So we have a few smaller problems at the moment with the integration, but we will offer technical preview. So for IGEL 11 with this integrated. I guess this should be ready in the course of next week.
Oh, very cool. So next week you'll see a private build then, maybe?
This will be a technical preview, so without an official support, it's just a test version, but this will be shared with all our sales and pre-sales persons.
Perfect. How can community people get a hold of that? Can they, or do we have to wait for a private? This is my number one question to you, right?
I know, yeah. So I will send you a direct email for that with the link.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. And folks listening, if you're not in the community, you know, we have private builds quite often. And can you maybe just explain real quick for those who might not know what a private build is and how we do builds? I don't know if everyone knows this. I, you know, hate to waste time if they do, but it is an interesting, you know, how we release our product.
Yes, of course. So we have stable releases, so the 11.04 100, 11.05 100, and these are regularly, I would say, every 4 months. Of course, we are offering interim releases. These are the so-called private builds with also an official IGEL support, and just to offer features and also bug fixes in a more direct way. So these are the private builds.
In a private build, let's say you had a private build come out on Monday and it had feature X, and another private build come out on Friday and had feature Y. Does that also have feature X in it because it was later, or are they completely different?
So this is usually one software stack, and we are using the release on Monday as base for the release on Friday. So usually every form of feature will be integrated in the current private builds.
Perfect. So we're not managing 100 different binaries. We have one, and it just continues to add to that. Correct?
Exactly. So that would be a mess to manage that. So nearly impossible, I would say.
Completely understand that. So folks, if you're in the community, if you're not in the community, we do, when I receive a list of the private builds, we post those within the IGEL community under the new releases channel. So definitely keep an eye on that, and then we'll get you that build. It really comes in handy. It's quite fun to do too. So can IGEL help encourage Citrix to enable audio over UDP in the Linux version of the workspace? Have you had any conversations with them about that? What do you know, buddy?
So yes, we have regular meetings with them, but UDP is, I would say, a different topic for them. So of course I could ask them once again, but this is not on their high priority list so far, as far as I know.
I imagine so. I imagine. Let's see what else. Any plans to be able to push IGEL Cloud Gateway settings to endpoints instead of having to configure each device manually?
So how do you mean that? So you don't, so usually you just connect the device via ICG to the UMS and you will get the settings then.
I guess just maybe to giving an idea from my side, I guess it's a mass deployment of ICG configuration through a profile. Could be the question. So just confirm that maybe in the chat, just to be sure. But for the moment, we are doing that with some comments like ICG-config, which is fine, but it's not really a proper integrated way into profiles or in the UMS itself. So might be the question.
Perfect. Yeah, Randy, who asked the question, if we're not getting that right, please, you know, ask another question and we will try to address it properly. And I have a question for all you guys listening. Is this the type of information you want from product management when we bring these guys on? Please let me know yes or no. And if it's no, let me know what you do want from these guys, because again, this is for you. So next question, does the new firmware support IGEL Linux? I know you specifically talked about Ubuntu. Thanks. That one confuses me a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. So the IGEL OS is based on Ubuntu. So of course we are doing a lot of magic stuff with IGEL OS, but the base is still Ubuntu.
Yeah, so we basically use the Ubuntu kernel, and then everything else we added is our IP, right?
Yes, that's totally correct, yeah.
Perfect.
So also the connection to the management platform and stuff like that. So there's a lot of manual stuff done with the IGEL OS. But the base, like I said, is still Ubuntu.
Perfect. Do you support Red Hat Virtualization Environment, VDI? We just totally lost them. Oh, okay.
So SPICE, I would say. So just SPICE. Yes, so there's a possibility. So we have an add-on in the IGEL OS to connect to SPICE environments.
Perfect. And here's sort of a follow-up to that question about pushing ICG settings up. Can we push a profile to the device which configures the ICG connection? We built the devices on the internal network and then have to take them off and put them on a separate internal network to configure the ICG. It would be great if they could be built and be ICG ready while still on the corporate network. Does that make sense? A
That
couple
makes
thumbs
sense.
up, too.
That makes sense. That's a good point. So let me think about. So I will discuss this topic with the development, but this makes sense. Yeah.
Perfect, perfect. See him, he's writing down notes. We love it when he writes down notes. Okay, what else do we have? Okay, this is a longer one, and I don't have my glasses on. I don't even seem close to me. So Lord help us all as I try my best to see this and read it out loud. Is it possible to integrate device drivers into IGEL OS faster / easier? So my idea would be a kind of custom partition or something adapted to the company, and it will only be rolled out in the company instead of the method known to me. The device driver is completely integrated and rolled out in IGEL OS. On the other hand, there is the option or integration device drivers into the IGEL OS independently. Since long support and processing time means that installing IGEL OS on 3 hardware makes a little sense. Does that sort of make sense? I think it does. Maybe I understand.
So I think it does as well. So we're trying to be always up to date with the current kernel versions and kernel patches. So it's not really easy to integrate drivers by your own. So of course you have driver based a lot of kernel dependencies, and this just must suit. So it's not easy to integrate drivers by your own. So we as IGEL trying to offer a full support for every new hardware, but as you know, as Ubuntu has I would say a few months delay when there are new chipsets. So of course we have this delay as well, and we will try to keep as up to date as possible here.
Perfect. Does the SPICE protocol? Is now readily support to bring up a Red Hat VM? I don't understand that question.
So it should, yeah. So I guess
Okay.
it's called the word viewer, and this is offering support for the SPICE protocol, and this is needed for the Red Hat environments.
Oh, okay. Makes sense. Okay, I think that's all the questions. If I did not answer your question, please let me know. Sometimes a little bit tough to follow them all. So I think I got them all, but let me check chat and see if there's anything else in there. If not, we'll take a little short break. And if you need to go to the bathroom, a couple hours, you probably want to take, maybe a couple minutes, 2 minutes tops. And then we'll transfer over to Sebastian. But let me take a quick second here. Oh, I love this one. If you're not a part of the IGEL community, you're missing out. That's definitely true. Love that. Thank you so much. I think question with 11x, how has the encryption drive issue been addressed? Did we have an encryption drive issue?
Issue, I'm not aware of that. So the whole system is encrypted, or so the user space is completely encrypted, and the system partitions are signed. So for security reasons, so I'm not aware of any issues with the encryption.
Okay, cool.
So there we need some details then.
Yeah. If you have any, use the Q&A, please, guys. If you have questions, the comments more for or the chat area more for. It's easier for me to read and follow. Any plans for HDMI output options on a UD3?
Excuse me?
Any plans for HDMI output options for UD3?
Okay, so an HDMI port on the UD3. So I guess so. So no, this is not planned at the moment. So the problem with HDMI is that you have patent fees for that, and this is not really cheap. So therefore we are using just DisplayPort at the moment.
Yeah, I heard that. That's very interesting that HDMI is actually owned. So every time you put an HDMI port, we actually have to pay somebody for that, don't we?
Yes, that's right. So I guess it's for Microsoft. So this patent has to be paid to Microsoft. So these are then the owners for the patent.
Oh, Microsoft owns HDMI. Interesting.
As far as I know, yes. Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's phenomenal. Huh, interesting. Okay. I think. Oh, we have one more. Sven, we talked about a UI. Do you have a few? Okay, yeah. Here's a few more. We have a few more minutes on our hour, so we'll get to them all. Right? We have the time. We're within time, so we'll make sure we do it. We have Microsoft always. Oh gosh, every time you move it, you move my screen. We have Microsoft always on VPN for our Windows 10 laptops. Is there any way to use that existing infrastructure with IGEL devices, or do we have to stand up a new VPN?
So currently you have to use a new VPN, so the Microsoft VPN. So I'm not sure which protocol is used for that. So that we have to check in detail.
Okay.
So I guess we are just using different mechanisms for that.
Perfect. And my buddy Sven said he talked about new UI for IGEL OS. Do you have any screenshots to share? Is that something that maybe we can share afterwards, maybe in the email or something?
So not yet. So I don't have any screenshots to share, but I know this is an important topic for a lot of our customers, and so we are working on it. So currently we are searching for a UI designer, and things will be better.
Perfect. Yes, Ben is our resident design expert guru, making things beautiful type of guy. So he's very much into the aesthetics of the OS, as am I, right? What I always tell you, make it look beautiful.
That's the plan. Also, the usability will be more confident. So also feedback from Amsterdam was the Wi-Fi manager, and yes, I can understand this. So this is not too usable. So it is usable, but it's not too comfortable in my opinion.
Perfect, perfect. Let's see, last question. Hi, I use custom partitions for device drivers, kernel objects that are not already in IGEL OS. Is there a way to make available headers of your OS so that we could compile drivers ourselves? For now, we have to ask for IGEL Linux SDK for that.
So there is just the IGEL SDK for that, so no different way. But when customers are using that in a real way, so this is quite interesting. So I wasn't aware of that. So of course we could think about to offer a more flexible way for that.
Perfect.
So currently there's just the SDK.
And this is the question I get quite often is the SDK, you know, the APIs. Are we expanding those? I know with the the Web UMS version, are we creating more APIs for developing that? Will that see its way out to the customers and partners? What's going on with the SDK and the IMI in the future?
So the SDK is for the IGEL OS basically. For the UMS, there is the IMI. But we don't offer too much ready to use APIs for that. So usually the customer has to set the API for that and on his own. But like I said, so when we have several demands for just one API, so then the connection to one tool, of course we could think about integrating this as well.
Perfect, perfect. Any plans to support more than one CP mount point at IGEL OS? For example, Zoom, Teams.
So more than one. So it's possible to use more than one CP.
Yeah, one CP, yes, but you cannot mount different custom partitions at one time. So really speaking about the mounting process, if assigning two different profiles of a custom partition, you get just one because of prioritization.
That's correct. Also good feedback. So this is not possible so far, but of course this is doable. So we just need to adjust our system and then it would be possible. But this is great feedback, so I will take this with me.
This is something I've received multiple times inside the community itself. So it's definitely a good point.
Okay.
Can we put a send feedback button in the UMS and IGEL OS? Maybe not the IGEL OS, but the UMS would be sort of interesting. You know, have it come directly to Werner at igel.com.
So that would be quite nice. So currently we don't get any feedback from our tool. So I guess it's quite unusual in these times, but we don't have an internet connection which calls us for what the customer is doing. So there is no direct way as connection to us. So the UMS is in your network and there it stays and there is no connection to us.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe it would open up an email, but if that thing doesn't have I mean, you could put a little SMTP, but that could possibly be a security issue too.
It is, yeah, it is. So,
Yeah,
so
you
a lot of
bet.
our
I can
customers
see.
don't want any connection to the internet via the UMS. So we are the external
Yeah,
internet then.
yeah, I can see that being a possible issue. Will we have Palo Alto Global Private VPN support? Open VPN.
OpenVPN is integrated.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Global Protect VPN.
Global Protect VPN. So I'm not aware of this solution.
Oh,
To
Palo
be
Alto
honest.
Global PAC. It's the same thing. Palo Alto Global Protect, right? Same thing. I'm not familiar, so.
So I'm not sure. There are different VPN clients, so I'm not sure about this one.
Okay.
So, but it's the same. So when there is customer demand, and of course when there is a bigger project behind, we just need to make sure that the effort is worth it. So the effort for the integrated equation, then of course we could think about that as well.
Perfect. Will there be a new version of the IMI anytime soon?
It's currently not planned.
Oh, you make us all very sad.
I'm sorry, but we
Why
have a
not?
lot of new projects, but it's hard to handle all of them in a few months.
Okay. You got me on that one. I can't argue with that. I understand what it takes to bring a product to market a little tiny bit, and it's overwhelming. So, does the new firmware? Okay, we answered that one. Answered that one. I think. Let's see. And we're right at the top. So I think we're pretty good to go. There's a few more, but we'll get to them. We're 5 minutes to the top of the hour. So what we're going to go ahead and do is just take a little short break to give everyone just a few minutes. If there's any more questions, and please keep them coming. If you have any questions whatsoever, throw them in there, and we'll get these guys to have some weekend work delivered
Thanks
to
a
you
lot,
at 8 a.m.
yeah.
on Monday. So let's take a 5-minute break, and then we'll start off with good old Sebastian and his session. Does that sound good, everybody? Okay. Christian, thank you so very much. Very much enjoyed it. I think the guys, from what I saw, this is right what we wanted to hear. So I hope we can have you back on and in the future and share more of the great stuff that you guys are doing. And kudos on the great work that you guys are doing within product management.
Of course, always a pleasure. Thanks a lot.
Okie dokie. So we'll take a short break, and maybe I'll sing. Would you like that? Probably not. So we'll go on mute and take just a couple-minute break and turn this thing over to. No, you don't want me to sing. Trust me, you don't want me to sing. So I'll go on mute, guys, and we'll be back in 4. Although the session's now Sebastian, so maybe he can sing.
Never, ever, ever.
I'm really happy to have Sebastian on here. This guy's done such an amazing job within the IGEL community, and every one of you guys probably know him that's in the community. I mean, if you're in the community, you've definitely seen his name. This is what he looks like. So, just an amazing guy. And to give you a little bit of insight, Sebastian's job is not IGEL community. His job, he's a pre-sales engineer, enterprise pre-sales engineer. All the questions he answers, all the great stuff he's doing, he does that above and beyond, as everyone in the community does, right? Including all you folks. And someone like me, my job is community, I truly can't thank you enough for that, right? Sebastian's sort of my hero, but David Sieber is, I mean, so many, Renee, I mean, all you guys, right? David, I mean, there's so many, Udo, I mean, you can just go down the line, right, of folks, and I don't even want to name names because I'll start forgetting them. But this is what I love about community. It was quite interesting. Sebastian answers so many things. He's always there. That it's always the joke that can we answer the question before before Sebastian does it, right? Because he gets to it so quick. Some of us, or not me, although I've actually done it where I'm trying to answer a question and boom, there he responds. You're like, oh darn it, and you delete your answer and go on with your day. But he went on vacation for a week and a half, which I told him, please don't do this. And but we didn't drop drop one ticket, I think, or not a ticket, but one question, or we didn't drop a bit because everyone picked up, and that's what's so great about the community, and it's just truly a great place. So I hope you guys enjoy it. If you have any suggestions for the community, please let me know. brown@igel.com. If you like this type of these type of sessions, these meetups we're doing, please let me know. brown@igel.com. So. Wait one more minute. We're almost at the top of the hour. And then we'll get started with Sebastian. And I like the kid so much, I actually learned how to pronounce his name properly, which is something I don't do very often. Right, Sebastian?
Sebastian would be even better, but to be honest, I don't even care because my second name is even more complicated to get pronunciated. So I heard everything from a mix of the country Peru with the combination with satellite. So everything is possible. So I'm more than happy to just say Sebastian. It's perfect.
Sebastian. I like Sebastian. I like that. It has a nice ring to it, I'm trying to learn German right now, and that's the most difficult thing I've ever done in my entire lifetime. I learned a few programming languages, TCP/IP. That was always an interesting thing, but German is throwing me for a loop. So no, I'm not going to pronounce German names. So,
it can be a really nice language, but it's sometimes pronounced a little bit hard. I know in France, when we are looking some movies about the Second World War, it's sometimes really funny how all the people outside of Germany is seeing the German people drinking beer, eating some sausages, and the accent is quite the same, but it's not true. So it's just a caricature.
Oh, that's exactly right. I mean, that's what movies about. It's sort of it's a caricature, a stereotype, right? And it's very far from the truth. Yeah. I've been in Germany now it'll be 6 years in July, and I tell you, I've lived in Iowa, where I grew up, California, Colorado, Florida, South Carolina, all around the country, and Germany is by far my favorite place I've ever lived. I absolutely love Berlin. I couldn't be happier. So it's the greatest people I've ever met. It's just absolutely a true pleasure. So with that, on that note, we're right at the top of the hour, a little bit over. Hopefully everyone's back. And Sebastian, the floor is yours. How's that?
Okay, then let me jump in. So, hi everyone. My name is Sébastien Pérusat. I'm working for IGEL for about 6.5 years now. I joined IGEL after spending 2 years in a consulting company, but just before that period, I was a customer of IGEL for about 11 years. But I must be ashamed, but it was Windows devices at this moment. So we bought a lot of Windows NT embedded, Windows XP embedded, then something with Vista embedded. I can't remember the exact name. It wasn't Vista embedded, but then 7 embedded. And then we moved to Linux, but it was after my time. So I learned Linux when joining IGEL. My goal for today is to give you a rough overview of what is possible inside of IGEL OS, because we have, I would say, a huge common base of commands compared to Ubuntu. So you can tweak a lot there. There are obviously some differences between us and the operating system, which is freely available for your workstation or for your server. But some commands are quite common. And we will see today how to use them and go then over to a little bit more complicated, like a custom partition, not really build it, but understand how it works and how it's deployed to a device. So doing that, we will have after this discussion, hopefully, just a short introduction about the debug methods we are providing in our operating system. Some are maybe already known in the community through threads we already had, sometimes through other sessions like Disrupt 2020 in Munich, where we had I would not say a similar, but some same topics like today. And we just put together some different debug methods that you could use for debugging Citrix, debugging VMware View Horizon, debugging network authentication, and so on. But that's more sharing information. It's not really presenting something, because it just slide text with information. And I will try to tell some stories about that, but mostly they are there that you can get the presentation after our session as a, let's say, a knowledge base article that you can rely to if you have something to debug. So some facts about today and what happened today a few years ago. On the 14th of May in 1973, the Skylab, the United States First Space Station, was launched. Why did I pick up that? To be honest, it was the only, I would say, positive thing I could find on Wikipedia for the day today. All the rest was bus crashes, some bombs that went through all the countries. So let's take it this one. It's cool because it's some kind of experimental stuff of finding new solutions, and also having some new experiences with the work with the sun and so on. So the Skylab was for me one of the most positive things I could tell about today a few years ago. But now it's what we are relying to. So we are speaking about the first IGEL community meetup. We had the first, let's say, come together on December last year with a few people from the Netherlands and also from Germany. And that's something we would be more than happy to have this year, but obviously we have at the moment exceptional situation, so we had to move into a more unpersonal way. So even for me, it's a little bit surprising to speak about technical stuff without having an interaction with you people, because usually I'm more than pleased to have questions, and having people asking me, how would you do that? Or do you have an idea how to solve that, that issue I have in my company? And just brainstorming. But in that case, I'm more telling you something. So it's kind of a change for myself, like turning on my webcam. Usually you would not find me somewhere, even on Facebook, because I'm not there, and I'm trying to get my own picture somewhere beyond the internet. But now I would say it's more common than before to have a conference like today, or having also Zoom meetups with my team colleagues through the whole country when speaking about Germany, or EMEA when speaking about the rest of the team located in Europe. So yeah, it's a big change for us at the moment. Let's start with the IGEL Workspace Edition, and we already saw it in the presentation of Christian, but just to bring it back, we had the first discussion in the Amsterdam meeting, where we spoke about the CP custom partition function, which were included in the EMP and not in the Workspace Edition anymore. And that's where I don't want to do marketing today, so just showing that picture, which is old now, because this topic is now back into our Workspace Edition. So in the base license you can get for IGEL OS 11 without the need for having the Enterprise Management Pack subscription bought separately. So that's really a huge improvement. And thanks, Christian, for taking that from the last community event and fulfill that request from the market. So, like I said, we'll just start with some security features we are implementing in our operating system. I would not say so much regarding that, just let the text speak for itself, because what we want today is changing that. We want to have some, I wouldn't say partition, but some functionalities that we're delivering change to better fit your need, your expectation. So we have a lot of different solutions that we integrated already into the IGEL OS, which starts with obviously some client component like Citrix, VMware View Horizon, WWD, and so on and so on. But most of these features were integrated. That's one thing in a custom partition sometimes when it was a quick win. Then might be through a feature request. So you got a private build sometimes or a release candidate, and then it moved into the full integration in the IGEL OS. The funny fact on that thing is that mostly every feature that you are seeing on that slide is located in a separate partition. This partition can be mounted, unmounted in specific configurations to fit your needs, if you need a partition or not. Mostly we are enabling everything, which is fine when doing a proof of value, but in a productive area, I would say that to reduce a little bit the attack and the update size you are trying to deliver to the endpoint, we are reducing the features that are delivered in operating systems. That's the reason why we have this feature set option in our profile, that you can disable some partitions from that construct. In our case, it's nice, but we want to add things and not remove some functionality. So just keep in mind, I would put a little bit of my own language into that presentation, because already is what I'm thinking. And that brings us to the next funny topic. We are mostly secured things we cannot put on the UD Pocket on a Linux distribution somewhere and mount our partition and change something there. But it's a little bit boring, because if you have an operating system where you cannot change something, where you cannot adapt scripts, for me at least, it gets a little bit boring. So now we are getting at the, I wouldn't say the peak, but it just shows you one more time that nothing can be changed. Nothing can be edited. Nothing can be made to stay over a reboot. Even since we integrated the assigned read-only partitions. That's just a side note. I know that we already had this discussion quite often in the Agile community, but just to remind you that having an 11.02.150 updated to 11.03.100 isn't downgradable without some specific efforts and having a ticket open at Agile because of that function. So if you test something, and even if we are asking you to update your 11.02 into 11.03, I'm not writing it down every time, and that's the reason why I'm just saying it again. You cannot downgrade directly from the UMS by using the 11.02.150 firmware. So just keep in mind, that's really a stuff that needs, it's a one-way ticket into the assigned partition world, but not really a way back without having a few communications with our support. And now, because it's really a German topic, I just wanted to show you how interesting this topic could be. I could speak also about Gartner, but I think it would just it would just break down the attendee numbers in peak. So we will just leave that IT Grundschutz topic, which is dry like sand, I would say, and coming back to what we are looking for at the moment. So accessing the terminal is quite easy if you know where. You could use a terminal for starting ping, starting some network debugging commands. I know we already have some integrated in our network tool, but sometimes just easy to open a terminal and sending out some commands to see if something is working or not. Next thing is reading log files. Obviously, you can upload every log file and every gathered log file through the UMS by using the help save device files for support. But if you want to do that on the endpoint directly, because you don't have a UMS by hand until the moment where we will get the UMS web application, you could do that easily in the terminal. And for what we are seeking today, having the modding customizing obviously done through the terminal, there are different approaches, but we'll show that later on. And configuration. Why I'm saying configuration? Because usually I would say everything is done in profiles, everything is done through the UMS. That's right. And to 99% absolutely with you. But there is a few things that you could do on a local base. So how can you access the terminal? The terminal is available through a few ways. There are a lot more, but I will start with the Control Alt F11 or F12, where you change the workspace. To be honest, I disable that feature on every customer proof of value where I'm attending. It's under user interface, display access control from what I recall, and there is a disable console switcher button, because sometimes the user can put some funny hotkeys for some other applications and then go into the shell and for him or for her, it does feel like the matrix. And then explaining him how to going back to the graphical user interface, just for your information, Control Alt F1 would be the workspace back to the GUI, is a pain. Even if it's calling the support, sometimes you are not knowing that there is a hotkey for the workspace switch. So if you want to disable that, I can publish the profile set afterwards. But that's one way to access the terminal. Second one, which is quite obvious, you can use the terminal by using a separate session. I will show you later on how to enable that. And last one, there are a few more, but let's stay with the standard ways using SSH and or the secure terminal, which is available one through a SSH client like PuTTY, or through the UMS by using the secure terminal function integrated into the UMS context menu. Some comments. You don't have to learn everything by yourself from this document, but it's a document which I tried to reuse from a former employee, tried to adapt it a little bit, and put it some new comments that I found useful into that list. Some came from you, from the community, some ideas, some functionalities, some descriptions. David Sieber did a great job in doing what I cannot, doing this kind, looking more beautiful. I would have just, I guess, having a CSV file and looking into it. So thanks, David, for that. But there, I will try to let the document grow a little bit. I will gather some information. And Doug, I would say that we should, after this session, just send the PDF out together with the rest of the recorded sessions.
We can definitely do that, absolutely.
Perfect, thank you very much. The reason why I'm saying that is quite simple. I will use some comments that you see here to show you some standard comments. I guess we have a lot of different experienced and skilled guys and women here in the call. So someone would never have used a terminal before, some integrate kernel, integrate drivers with our SDK. So I will try to find, let's say, a good mix between both worlds, between no experience and a lot of experience. So if I'm issuing some comments like LL or CD, don't leave the session immediately. We have some other stuff coming up just after that, but just to make a first introduction to the terminal world. So that's a switch. So just to give you a rough idea, I'm working now on my private computer. So we have a Windows 10 host system. Usually I'm using Ubuntu host system for my laptop, but that it was easier to do that on the workstation. So I have my host system. The host system has the RDP connection here on the left hand to my UMS server. And I have also a VMware workstation, which is here, which holds a connection to my ASXi, sorry, where I have my IGEL OS 11 endpoint, which is registered to my UMS. So let's start there. We have my UMS and my endpoint. Just jump over that one. And I created a profile for accessing the terminal locally on the endpoint. So having under accessories, terminals, the ability to add, just push the plus button, a new terminal session. You don't have to configure something else here. Nothing. It's more than enough to have it on the desktop. I know if you use the appliance mode, you might have to check this appliance mode access, but let's keep it on a, let's say, standard way and having a full-blown desktop started already. So just delete that one because it's a new one. So having that deployed to the endpoint means that you will receive a funny black box called local terminal on your desktop, on your start menu, and so on. And as soon as you double click it, you will get an authentication prompt or not. If you don't get one, it just means that you didn't set, and I just jump back to my UMS, you didn't set a profile or a master profile for having the administrator password set, which is to be honest, a recommendation from my side, if not done until now, not to do that in a master profile, which is a higher level profile, which cannot be overwritten, sorry, from a normal profile, and which is only accessible by the administrator group. But you can do that also in a normal profile. But I would highly recommend to set here the administrator use password, and obviously enter a password that you know and that you can remember. The user will not have to enter that password at any time. He or she will just have to enter it if she or he tries to access some functionalities which are blocked by a password. So terminal is one of them. What I'm using usually is to block the network tools, which is by default password protected, and where you have to enter the administrator password as soon as you publish that function into the system or into the start menu. So just coming back to our topic, we have now a password which is highly secure. I can give it, it's just IGEL, and logging into the terminal. And now we are seeing my metrics. So what I'm doing now is just issuing standard commands that you already have seen in the PDF or sometimes from your own Linux experience. First of all is pwd, saying in which folder I am or which mount point. In that case, it's fine, but root is not so funny for me. So I would just jump back to the root folder, which is /. And next comment is a ll, which means list. I'm just like on Windows, a dir command, just showing what is, I will just make the window a little bit bigger, I guess. Here we go. What is in /? So we have a few folders. I would go through each folder, obviously, but just through a few of them. You might already have seen some commands which are related to licenses, sometimes which to config sessions, sometimes to services, but we will stay with WFS. Why WFS? WFS is one of the, to make it more easy to understand, the only partition that you should use if you want to store, and that's the main topic I want to share, small files. If you want to put something on the endpoint and you want to stay that over a reboot, WFS might be an idea. Might, because it was an idea until the custom partition went back into the workspace edition. So WFS shouldn't be written by something. I will just go into that folder, which is now CD for change directory, and now we'll pull back an LL and see there's a lot of files in there. And I would just give you 2 or 3 of them and give you some ideas with what is located in there. The WFS folder is meant for the configuration, for everything that we are deploying from the UMS to the endpoint, everything that we are configuring locally in the IGEL setup, in the display switcher, and the smart display switcher. More or less everything that you're doing for that device is located in that WFS folder. And I would not show that because it's just obvious, and hopefully you can trust me. If you put a file or create a file in there, you can reboot the machine and it will stay there. Do the same in /atc and it will be gone. Do that in /varlog, it will be gone. Even in /tmp, temp, because it's a RAM drive from what I recall. But just keep in mind for small files, we can take WFS. It's 500 meg or 512 meg big, but don't mess with it. Prefer to create a custom partition. We'll show that later on and explain you how to deal with that. But let's stay with that folder. And in that folder, I'm using a command like more to show me the content of a file. I would start with the group.ini file. Don't have to understand everything, everything which is noted down in that file. Just to give you an idea, the group.ini is the local cache of what you have sent to the device through the UMS profiles. So you see my SCEP configuration that I sent over to my endpoint through my profile. What else? You should see our extern session. So in my case, it's meant for my local terminal. That's obviously a session I have sent over to my lab, my NTP server, and so on and so on. So that's the reason why if your UMS is breaking down and you reboot the device will stay with this last gathered configuration. It will not just go and try to connect to UMS. If it's not connecting, it will go to a factory default. At least you can configure that if you want to, but usually the device just holds a local cache of the configuration you deployed to profiles. Same stuff for, I would just use another command called cat, which does more or less the same for having the setup ini shown. The setup ini is a local configuration. So you see there are less informations. You are seeing my UMS server, which is a remote manager entry in my lab, the host name, and some not aided, how was it called, DDC information of my display, which in that case is a virtual one, so nothing to see, but a few information. Please try to avoid to change the files locally. It will ever end up in a mess. Please keep in mind to do that in a profile, or if you want to do something locally and you really want to change a file like the just show you the DHC client. Just a short side note at that case, because every DHC client file is different. If you have a file like here, like the DHC client, where you know that there is just one file with that name, or the beginning is unique, you can just put the tabulator key, I hope that's the right term in English, the key which is with the two arrows showing each other, and it will just auto-fulfill everything. And just have to correct my typo. Here we go. And here we see the DHCP client informations gathered by the device. Here you should see if you deployed an DHCP option 224 for the automatic registration, or in that case it was this one, the DHCP structure tag, the option 226. Which we will see later on, because it's a funny function you could use for other purposes. Yeah, so we have a couple of more comments you could use. CP for copy, MV for move files, and what I'm using for editing files. There are a lot of different editors available on the Linux market, but I'm stuck with the good old VI, which works quite fine, where you can edit a file with the letter I, you can insert something, and with, don't know how to say it in English, but the double dot and W for write and quit, you can write something into a file, which is not in read only, obviously. So yeah, that was a few comments I've written down. I will just give you some other things, because in the document you have seen before in the PDF, there are a few IGEL related comments which are not obviously available for the whole market on or whole distribution. It's called set param. It doesn't seems like a really useful command at the first sight, but it might change your life regarding IGEL. Why that? Let me just jump back to the UMS. And you might have read something about the registry in some IGEL community threads or posts. The registry obviously is not something that's related to Windows, but is more the hidden side of the iceberg. The registry holds everything that you see in the GUI, so in the profile configuration. And everything that you set there, like our terminal session that we did here, will end up in something which is then blue in the registry. Why I'm saying that? We have one specific key, which is called structure tag, which is not used so often, sometimes some enterprise level customers, but even there, we are mostly relying to the default directories and the IP address, automatic movements of an endpoint to a specific folder. But the structure tag helps you to move a device automatically into a folder without having to use the IP address. You just say, if the device boots up, get a DHCP option 226 from your DHCP server, which is called, it's just an example, building 1. And you have a rule which is saying, if a device is coming with the structure tag building 1, put it in folder building 1 without having to use multiple IP ranges that you have to enter by hand, at least for the moment. So just keep in mind we have that function, and keep in mind that we have here a path, and that's something that you might already read from IGEL employees. We are putting you into a system registry and sending you then this link, so to say, with some dots between. It just says that it's in system, then dot, remote manager, then dot, the function. So having that one used, I would just do a copy, moving back to my endpoint. I would say, okay, damn, no copy and paste function allowed there. Don't mind, we'll do that directly on the endpoint. So going back to system, endpoint, remote manager, UMS structure tag, boom. Hopefully it will work there. Yeah. And take the entry to stay on building 1. It's done. Nothing more to see at the moment. I will just close that window and show you then afterwards. But I can just show you there. If I go back to my UMS and saying my endpoint edit configuration from the UMS and going to the same function into system, remote manager, UMS structure tag, it's empty. Why could that be the case? It's quite easy. What you're doing on the endpoint is not transferred immediately to the UMS. It happens in a regular manner, yes, but if you want to push that because you need it right now, you use the command called write_rm settings, which writes the actual configuration into the database. Here we go. And now we should even see that function here. Just to prove you that it's already in the registry, just here we go. System, remote manager, and the structure tag. Here we go. And it's also shown in the main asset window of the device. But what will happen if I reboot the device, or I would like to change that? I would say, let's stay here, and I will come back to the topic a little bit later. So let's talk about the custom command. There are a few ones. There are some post-session command, which means if a session is interrupted, is locked off, is canceled for whatever reason, an action can be initiated. But that's not exactly what we're trying to achieve now. Remember, we had this write RM settings, we had these files we want to deploy to the endpoint, and they should stay over a reboot. Sometimes you could also have some situations where the path changes or the file can be deleted locally, and this file should come back after every reboot. That's the case if you use the custom commands. Custom commands are, let's say, something that you are starting at every boot when speaking about the base phase here on the right, on the left hand, or during the network initiation. There are a few steps you could use if you want to do that before DNS, after DNS. But in that case, I'm mostly using final network command, because that means that even if the device boots up and hasn't even finished the whole negotiation, it will stay. even if the desktop isn't started. Or even better, if you deploy the profile, not every time, but mostly the network manager is restarted for a few seconds, or the GUI restarts, and that means that the network initiation is started again, and will write down the topic into the folder you're using. You're not obliged to use some funny Linux comments like I did. You could do some other stuff like writing in a file, like starting another application, or having some pauses, some breaks you want to have. That's something you could then do easily in the final network command, or in general in custom commands, to be more clear. So what did I try to achieve with the comment you see just before? There was a customer in Slack which was asking for a manipulation of the Kerberos configuration file, which wasn't a solution, by the way. It was a solution sent by Christopher Bates, but just to give an idea, if you want to change something and in the Kerberos configuration, which isn't available in our registry because just a few customers need it, or just because some integrations were newer and wasn't already integrated by our devs, you could do that through this kind of functions. In that case, what I'm doing, I'm creating a file called /ws/krb.sh. sh is a shell file, so a kind of, let's say, like a bat or comment file or PowerShell file on Windows, which is executable usually. Then we have a context, and then I'm just changing one specific configuration in that file by using sed. And what happens here? By opening that, I'm just saying, take everything which is between that comment and or f and put that into the file without having to do that funny, I'll say it in English, but this marks and putting something into the file. Here we can just say, okay, just take everything which is between that. Same stuff for what happens after that. On Linux, you have usually to change the execution method of a file. In that case, +x means that you make the file executable. That's what I tried to show you by putting the ll command to see that here is an x. So more or less everyone is able to execute that file, not even secure, but it was just a first test. So, and then starting the script by using the right shell context and the script itself. So it was created on every boot, and as soon as it was created, changed to executable shell file, and then started. So let's go back to the lab for the topic and take one profile I prepared for today. We have a few things we can achieve by using that kind of comments. So let me just assign that profile. Let me just restart the network manager to get the files created. I could also restart the old device, but in that case, I was just trying to save some time. Okay, here we go. And just to give you an idea, before starting something, I will just take a look if we have the files I'm looking for. Seems like it worked. So we already have integrated that since a few firmware versions. I can't remember when. I think it was an 11.0 late something 1. But we wasn't able to do that before. So having different storefront servers in our operating system. So I created a Zenity script, which is more or less a front end, where you can do a selection and after that executing some commands. In my case, having the storefront configured for the storefront 1 or 2. Just to give you an idea, it looks like this for the moment. It should be pretty empty. See, no store address, no store name. Domain is kind of dummy, so nothing really to see. Using the storefront one and saying, okay, brings me back to the workspace app client with the predefined domain that I set it up in the script. And if I prepared it in a proper way, hopefully, we should see here some new things. So you can use a, let's say, a graphical user interface front end to manipulate the operating system. I will show you how to handle that on the command line then. The second thing is, remember our sample commands with the set param building one and the red RM settings. I'm now using YAT, which is an alternative. Yeah, it's not the right term, but let's say an alternative to Zenity, where you can put some buttons with functions behind. In that case, just to remind you, we'll switch back to the UMS. We still have building one in the structure tag, right? I will push the button factory because it can be an ID to give a field service the ability to move devices from the device itself. So move devices between folders. And saying this device was moved to factory, so it should move to the folder factory where another configuration is assigned to. Saying factory, I didn't retested it, so please keep your finger crossed. Yeah, damn, I should have. It seems like, hold on, just check if it just transfer thingy. Yeah, okay. I already have noticed that today. I'm not sure why it happens. There is obviously a reason, but I couldn't find it in a fast way. So it writes back the right structure tag into the UMS database. So it's there. So the script is working, but something is missing here. I already noticed that, but yeah, we'll have a look later on. So just doing that same stuff for unknown. And we will now go into the shell and doing the same stuff like before. So we will show the content of group ini and adding the pipe, which means that we add another command, which takes the result of the first command and do something with it. In my case, I grab, so I'm searching for a specific term inside that file, which is called structure tag in my case, but I'm not every time sure how it is written. So I'm just taking a structure and we see, hold on, it was not the group ini, my mistake. How could I write that? It's a setup ini, obviously. And we have the UMS structure tag, which was like we did on unknown. Push it back to Office, which we didn't test it until now. Here we go, back to Office. So that script could be used from your side for having a field service moving your devices from one folder to another. I know that I learned a new thing that you can also use the UMS registration tool, which is there. But first of all, you have to enter the rest of the information from what I recall to have the ability to change the directory. And not every user should have the ability to change the registration from one server to another to try to manipulate information in that window. So if you want to use that, you can use the YAT function. So it looks like this. Hopefully I have it still in my Notepad++. So switching back to my UMS server, and I didn't. So let me create a new page and copy the file content. We just put it into the network section, and let's take the whole thing here. Okay, here we go. Just save as a bash file, which makes it a little bit more easy to read. Easy to read is sometimes a really personal feeling. So just let me take some things out. Okay, so here we have two different bash files in one. So we stay on the first one. We have variables that are defined just because I'm lazy. I don't want to put every informations in every line. So I just use variables, which are here like the minus $set, which refers to the comment set param. I know it will not change in the near future, but if the comment would change, I just would have to change that one and not having to search for every set param, which is hidden somewhere in the script file. So that's the reason why there is mostly, not every time, but mostly first a variable set of functions. Then we create some log informations. You can use a logger. You can put the content. That was the term, Doug. You can maybe just say it in English. How was it called?
Say that again, please.
Can you just say me how the symbol is called in English, which I'm showing there? This kind of arrow showing to the right. This one.
It's a, what, it would be a greater than sign? Greater than sign.
Gradient sign. Okay, got it. Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, greater than, yeah.
Yeah. So putting that means that it will be, the result of that command will be written into the log file. And then we have the whole activity, which is the Zenity in that case, which opens a radio list where you have two options to choose, and then you set with our set param. There are also a few other ones. There are set user param, there are set crypt param if you want to store passwords in the registry. But let's stay with the simple, with easy stuff, and then you are almost done. So you see, it's just written, just made a sample. So it's nothing really good written or high skilled, something that just to show you it could work this way. Same stuff for our YAD. YAD is from the where function more or less the same. You have a button, and the button starts a bash command, which is then set param with our registry path, with our, hold on, our factory that we choose, and then our write RM setting that the device will write back the content to the UMS database. And then we have a cancel button if you want to escape that window. So that's basically what you can do in a, let's say, easy way without having to add some new functionalities, because everything that you're seeing here that you saw until now is integrated by default into our operating system. It's nothing hidden. You just have to open the terminal, issue the commands, and you are there. So if you want to have a look into the quick command or sheet like we call it, it would be helpful for you, I guess, because there are just some comments listed in one pager that are, at the moment at least, fully supported. Okay, let's switch back to the document. So what is a custom partition? I would say, at least even in IGEL, we all have different definitions of what a custom partition is. I would say, from a factual thing, CP just stands for a partition, which is writable and which stays over a reboot. Not more than that. If you enable the partition, like I did here in the profile, it will just mount a partition, which has 800 meg. You can obviously change the M with a G, then you have gigs. Be careful with that, but could be exactly the same way. And you can put files into that custom partition. It can be some bigger wallpapers you don't want to throw through the firmware customization stuff. It can be movies if you do some kind of in-store TV. Don't remember the right term, but if you want to show some advertisements in a remote office on a screen, and you want to have a movie played by a media player inside of our operating system, that could be an idea, without having to plug it in a USB stick every time. Because try to avoid to copy these files like a movie into /WS. If this partition goes full, it will mess up the or at least it could mess up the whole system. So try to use the /custom because now it's cost-free. It's included by the Workspace Edition. You don't have to hassle anymore. Well, then we have what we call a custom partition, or what we in the community, let's say, we call a custom partition. It's integrating functionalities that are not delivered by default or not included by default in our IGEL operating system. In the last months, for a sad reason, we had to deliver Teams, we had to deliver Zoom, we had to deliver a lot of different custom partitions, not because it's sad that we don't want to do that, but the reason is a little bit sad. So custom partition is a powerful tool set for having applications delivered to the endpoint without having to asking for a private build, and having the deployment reduced to the strict minimum. So just to what you're trying to deploy. In my case, I'm using Flatpak. I will explain a little bit later on what it is, and we'll make a short demo, just having the clock a little bit on time. But here is where the magic starts. The custom partition was created with the 800 megabytes. It's done. So that was on the partition. Now we have to define a download path, which in my case is my UMS server, my UMS file transfer folder. We'll explain you later on, but it's a web directory that we install by default on every UMS, which holds every file that you're transferring to the endpoint and from the endpoint to the UMS. So your certificates, your firmware customization, corporate identity, wallpapers, your custom partitions, usually, not every time, but usually. Same for the firmware updates. Everything is stored in the UMS file transfer. On UMS file firmware updates, you could also do that on the FTP server, but in a standard way, it would reside there. So you have the username and password from the user, which is taken for the remote access to the files. And we have the inf file. So before going to the script, I just switch back to my UMS and show you the content of one of these folders. I have prepared my UMS file transfer folder, which looks like this. And you should see a lot of things that you are already knowing from your own company, like your firmware updates, some boot splash, some certificates, root issuing CA, whatever. But also some other folders, like the webinf, which holds some configuration file for the Tomcat. But in my case, the custom folder is more important, where I have custom partition integrated in it. And the custom partition is, or mostly two files, an in file, which just holds a version number and a reference to the tar.bz2 file. The tar.bz2 file is not more than a compressed file, a compressed container. Opening that with 7-zip or on Linux with other tools, you will have a folder and just in front of that, a shell file. A shell file, which is in that case, easy to read. That's the reason why I used it. It's a custom partition I created a few years ago for a Swiss customer which wanted to use the Net Extender VPN client. And what are we doing in a custom partition? Or what could you do by yourself? You take a binary, or let's start with a deb package or with a tar.gz file delivered by your vendor, like in that case, Net Extender. In that file, you might have differences, you might have a deb, you might have a tar, but in general, you install that application in your lab. In my case, it's a Ubuntu virtual machine. And I'm trying to gather all dependencies of that binary of that function. So when speaking about the VPN client, I'm looking for some libraries. I'm looking for folders that the VPN client is needing. And I'm taking everything together in a format time per hand. Now we have some scripts. Bernd Schelle, a new colleague in the Inside Presales, is doing a great job in doing a script, which makes it even easier to create a custom partition since we had it for the moment. And we are doing that from person to person in a different way. But if you are asking for a custom partition at our support, you will get a kind of this structure. So the script is doing sometimes on every boot, sometimes just one time, the creation of folders, will change some files, but the main thing, what a custom partition is linking with ln-s, so it's creating symbolic link on every startup of the device into our operating system. That's why I'm saying we're not installing something on our operating system. We are integrating a portable version of an application into operating system. So don't try to, or at least you could copy the file sometimes in some folders like -etc and so on, but it will be gone after a reboot. So that's the reason why we are working with symbolic links, because it's a little bit easier to use. It doesn't require the same amount of time when transferring big files than creating a symbolic link. So basically, a custom partition is a portable version of something you want to integrate. And the script inside the custom partition creates symbolic links from all the dependencies that the application is needing into the operating system, that it seems like a Ubuntu standard operating system for that application. So that's just a short introduction on in how a custom partition is being used on a thin client, on an endpoint. So just have 6 minutes left. So I will just show you my vision for the future. So what could be a custom partition be? It can be Teams for Linux. It can be Google Chrome. It can be TeamViewer. Sometimes things that we are not allowed to distribute because it's a software thing and we are not covering licensing stuff with other vendors sometimes. But it can be also some new functions that you need. So having, like an example, the flatback topics that will just push to the endpoint, like a normal profile, going back to the device itself. You will not see so much on the desktop beside one, I guess it was a browser session. Just want to show you, I already showed it in Amsterdam last year, but I optimized a few things. I don't know if you know flatbacks. Flatbacks is a really cool way to having things installed in your operating system with all dependencies without having the need to having a package deployment tool like apt. So having our App Store started, you see that there is an App Store where I can download Zoom, which is pretty cool. So let's just try that one. And hopefully I will not blame myself in doing something that I didn't retest it. So Flatpak is a command. Then you have the command install. And I would just take the link from this install and put it here into the command line. Hold on a second, just make it a little bit bigger. Is not a Flatpak command. That's right. How did I? My mistake. Here we go. Yes, we want. And now the app is checking this Flatpak, which runtimes are needed for the installation of that tool locally. So we'll just start the installation process. So there is no custom partition of Zoom I'm deploying to the endpoint at the moment. I'm not a little bit slow today, but hopefully it will go a little bit faster then. I'm not deploying a whole custom partition at the moment. So I'm just deploying, let's say, a kind of base, and that base is able to download everything that I need for running that application locally without changing our security features that we integrate in our operating system. So it just takes a little bit longer than yesterday, but might be just related to my poor internet connectivity for the moment. So just hold on a few seconds. But it will install the Zoom client locally and make it usable like a local application that you might download on your Windows PC. So my vision for the future, if we got a future, is to have the functionality integrated like a kind of app store. and having tools like this installed without having the need to asking IGEL for creating custom partitions. So here we go. It's installed. So I will just go back and say, I think it was run and us zoom.zoom. It was a big Z. Oh, come on. Here we go. us.zoom.zoom. And here we go. Should I sign in just to see if it works? Yeah. If you start to write your name false, it's getting a mess. But here we go. It started and our session is still there. Second thing, which is more or less the same stuff, but you want to install Discord, might be interesting to have the same thing, which is just installing the Flatpak, which should now go a little bit faster because we already have a lot of dependencies installed. And yeah, should be ready in a few seconds. So not sure if Discord is a typical use case for an application on a thin client, but might be interesting. So just have to look for the syntax, Discord app.discord, no sandbox, because I'm issuing that as a root, and that kind of tools shouldn't be started as root, but for our demo, it's more than enough. So you see, just deploying a new Flatpak is a question of seconds and not weeks or days by asking us to create a custom partition. So I don't have a Discord account, so I cannot share so much, but you see it works. It even took some updates from Discord, so that's pretty cool. So that's the reason why I just wanted to show you the possible goals of custom partition. We started with the App Store, which might come in the future, but nothing I can promise for the moment. Microsoft Teams is one of them. And obviously, we created a community custom partition called Falling at Home if you want to fight disease and fight COVID-19. That could be one idea to use the custom partition for the Falling at Home, which is already posted into the community. And just to have an eye on the clock, I think we started a few minutes after 6. So just let me show you the last slides before giving you the last informations regarding the questions. So how to access the registry, you already have seen it in a fast way, system, registry, and there you have everything you want to see. And now, to be honest, if you have something which is really specific to you and you want to have it, please just make a screenshot, because I guess it's not something I will explain in every step. It's just if you have something related to network and then want to have a debug of a Wi-Fi connection or the network authentication method, that's the way to go. Active Directory, just in case, we will send you the presentation afterwards. So if you didn't have the chance to make a screenshot, it will come afterwards. Active Directory Kerberos, the debug, and you always see where the log file is located. In that case, the log file is not called journal.ctl. It's a comment journal.ctl you can issue in Linux. Same for Citrix, and so on. Doug, just give me a rough idea. Should we go through each slide, or should we just send it and go back to the questions if we have?
Why don't we ask the audience? I mean, I'm okay with anything. I don't know if I have an opinion on it. I'm having so much fun here. And I just wanted to share some of these comments with you, Sebastian. I know you probably don't have, you know, looking at the chat.
No.
Mind blown was somebody said. David said, mind blown. So cool. Great stuff. I mean, they're just, this is amazing. This is really amazing.
So you paid them.
I didn't. I'm quite blown away myself, but I've learned a long time ago that you amaze me and then some. So what do I say?
It was a good idea to have my sister joining the session and writing with some pseudonyms. Okay.
Please continue.
Yeah,
if you guys need to leave the session and head to another meeting or whatever reason, we're going to continue recording this. So, we'll send you out the recorded version once it's all done. Don't worry about that. But if you want to stick around, please do.
I wasn't even thinking that I would fill 1 hour, to be honest. So I'm pretty amazed that we took a little bit longer than expected, even if it's not what I'm trying to achieve usually.
Not a problem. We're always, sometimes things go, a little bit long when you're having a lot of fun, right? So this is truly amazing. So I'll be quiet. Please continue.
Yeah, more or less on the last, or not on the last, but just before slide. The debug partition and monitoring agent are tool sets that we delivered to you without, I guess, having documents that function in a proper way, or not enough, I would say. I would just take 1 minute to speak about that, because the debug partition is one of the most helpful functionalities we ever integrate in the operating system when speaking about debugging stuff. So just let me show you 1 or 2 things, and then I will try to keep it short. Debug partition is here. Registry debug tools. So first of all, you have to enable the partition itself, because it's not activated by default, because it can be a big partition. It can take your free disk space for nothing. So we don't activate it by default. If you need it, activate that function here first. Then take a size which fits in your needs. Usually, to be honest, I go to 300 meg, because sometimes if you're using, you will see that on the TCP dump, it can be quite huge in a short amount of time. So even 300 meg might be too small, but for the start, we have a netlog, which does everything which is related to, at least in my opinion, to a network debugging stuff. Having the netlog, having netstat, so ports monitored. If you want to make how to say in English, but Dauer ping, it's called a continuous ping to a remote server. It's something that could be done here easily, just defining a ping target. So if you have a customer which is arguing that his connection is unstable, and you don't see something on your side in your monitoring, because you're just monitoring from time to time and not every millisecond, which would make sense, you could just enter here IP address, which will be pinged from the endpoint and give you some information if the connectivity is there or not. Going through syslog information rotating, going through the TCP dump itself, where you can more or less do a packet capture of everything which is sent and received in the network stack. Just a hint, if you are a little bit aware how to use TCP dump, start with filter, because filter would save your disk space and would help you definitely to not have everything, which is sometimes also a little bit tough because of data privacy, but might have also Xorg for the graphical interface, which is not the right term, but it's only I can remember for the moment. So that's one of the easiest way to get things debugged without having to script something. Obviously, you can create a script in WFS and let's start it at every boot up and so on, but you don't have to. Second thing, the monitoring agent, which is, I would say, complementary to the debug partition, at least in my opinion. You can monitor things. Things is not the right time again, but you can monitor some stuff like partition size, some processes, having a specific partition check if disk space is going out of space, or if you have a specific process monitor, a specific process like the X server, or sometimes maybe more relevant, the Firefox bin, the Firefox binary, and see if it goes to 100% CPU, should we send a warning? Because that's then should be a behavior that is not wanted. So just to give you a rough idea what you could do there, use it with caution and don't use it widely. because of that the network traffic and read and write cycles on the hard disk. But if you want to debug something, it's a really huge and powerful tool set. And I'm done. So if you have questions, please feel free.
Okay, there are, you know, I must confess, thank you so much, David Sieber. He's been answering, answering the questions as you've been going through your session. So
oh, cool.
amazing.
Thanks, David.
Yeah, really great stuff. But there's a few in here, and if there's anything David or the other guys haven't answered, please let me know. But see, let's start at the top.
And yes, Minecraft. I don't play Minecraft, to be honest, but I already downloaded it just for having fun, and it worked. Because I'm just seeing the Lord Minecraft, and yes, it works.
What about a reboot? Will the Flatpak app stay after a reboot?
For the moment, no. That's exactly what. I did mention it properly. The Flatpak will be removed. I tried to redirect the installation path into the custom partition itself, but I failed yesterday evening. And to be honest, I didn't have the time to dig a little bit deeper into that, because it's not something that we will publish widely. But yeah, it will be gone after the reboot.
Great. I'm just going to read this one because it's so good. Sehr gut, merci. You the man.
Thank you so much for that.
I could say the French and the English, or in the German, I couldn't spit out the English.
Thank you for that.
Really impressive. I mean, you know, David answered almost everything. Is there a documentation about FlatHub and the relation to IGEL CP? Unfortunately, I was absent and only came back when FlatHub was being shown. I am completely impressed about this function. How do they learn more?
Yeah, that's something we still have, let's say, on our discussion roadmap with the PM, with our team lead. We, for the moment, have definitely another focus. And I think it's not a function which would be, let's say, enterprise ready, which is for the moment, at least, correct me, Christian, but our focus is for the moment the enterprise level. And that's something which would brings us a lot of new customers and projects. But I would say from a priority perspective, the custom partition topic is still not on number one. Let's say it this way. And the Flatpak topic, since I didn't even read something regarding license agreements and so on. So because for me it's dry like sand. So that would be a topic we should have to discuss with our lawyers and so on. But it might be a way for the future, or having something else. I don't want to spread too much information stack, but we discussed that with the sanitized custom partitions. That could be, I don't want to spread too much, so I won't say so much about that, but might be an idea to have some guidance, to have you people creating custom partitions with some help from our side with some samples, but that's another topic.
Yeah, it's a very touchy subject. I think all the questions been answered. I mean, David answers so many of them. Guys, if there's anything else, maybe Sebastian, you want to flip through that? But is there anything David didn't give you an answer that was adequate? Usually not the case. He's pretty darn sharp himself, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you bet. You know, I guess I want to ask you, and maybe Christian Werner, do you have any questions for the audience? Is there anything you would like them to maybe, you know, answer now or mull over and get back to us on?
I would pass over to Christian just to get some water.
So usually I get a lot of feedback over the months, over the week. So I'm not sure if there is anything at the moment which is really disturbing you.
That's good. That's
so
good.
I hope not.
Well, good. You know, I mean, we'll wait for Sebastian. Oh no, you haven't left. I thought you said something about water. I looked down. Yeah. So I think we'll go ahead and call it a show, guys. You know, I mean, amazing job by both of you guys. Last question I have is for the audience. Is this what you, again, you know, is this the type of content you'd like to see out of us? Is there, you know, and please, if there's more you want, you know, again, just email me, brown@igel.com. Please join the community if you're not already a member. This is what we're doing inside there. You know, what else do I say? But, you know, Christian, Sebastian, thank you so very much. And thank you guys all for joining. I hope you enjoyed it. I did press record, so we'll get you all. I actually configured it automatically so I wouldn't forget, because I wrote big giant font, don't forget to record. And we'll get this out to you guys. So thank you all. I hope you have a pleasant day. Yeah, what else do I say? I'm sort of stunned. I love it. Really great stuff.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for
It was a
arranging,
pleasure.
and thank you for joining.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
it was a pleasure. Thanks a lot. Take care. Stay healthy.
Bye-bye.
Yes.
Take care, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.